How often do we talk about cloud networking as if it's something we need to consider or build, something we need to move towards? Well, the cloud is here and it's doing more than you may realize. The question becomes, does simple to use somehow mean less to offer? Well, don't you worry. We got you covered. It's time for TechWise TV. Hey guys, welcome. It's time for TechWise TV. My name is Rob Boyd.
And I'm Jimmy Ray Purser.
And today we are at the headquarters. We're at the headquarters of MERAKI.
I want to take a picture of what we're doing and put it on Twitter and Facebook so people can see what it's like to
There's
see
three cameras pointed
TV.
at us. Oh, you want from our angle?
Yeah, for which people could see it.
Well, there you go.
All right. Well,
Okay, well, hold off on that for one
all
second.
right, all right.
So I think we got to say Cisco MERAKI, right?
Cisco MERAKI, right.
But as we look around here, this is distinctively a, I don't want to say independent operation, but certainly an operation that takes their culture, their expertise, and what they're working on here extremely seriously. And we can see the result in the products. I don't think it's entirely clear, as much as we may respect their ability to deliver infrastructure as a service, even from within Cisco, I think there is still some confusion. How would you put it?
It really comes down to, you know, on-prem versus off-prem more than anything else, right? I mean, where do you want the control of your gear, of your equipment, your CPE in a sense, to actually be, right? The cloud solutions are becoming a lot more technical because, I mean, we're here even going to hopefully talk about OSPF, look at some of their wired offerings, some of their CMX offerings, that kind of stuff. So we're getting a lot more complex on what we can do off-prem. So what is it that you need to do? It really does give you the option of what do you need to control. Where is your ability, what do you want to actually set up and control in your network more than anything else? And that's the big piece here.
So I've got that on my list of things we need to take care of. But first, I want to answer that question about where does Cisco traditional networking begin and end versus where does MERAKI's cloud-based expertise begin and end? Because it feels like there's some overlap. I don't think it's that simple. I would have originally gone into this starting, in fact, I was doing this. I was thinking of, we're fitting these cloud-based solutions only into your smaller markets, only
small business type opportunities.
But these examples of one, using it on an edge, a way to spin up remote offices more quickly, a way to even offer in a heavily regulated environment. He mentioned one customer using it as in kind of what I'd call an air gap situation, rolling out a separate parallel network that's pretty darn clear that it doesn't interact at all with your on-prem network. You know, that there are ways to do that, but I think they're up to a lot more here because they're hard at work. They've been hiring like crazy, and there's a ton of people here. What is most important that we don't want to miss while we're here from your perspective?
Man, I can't give up any telemetry. You know, I got to have some good visibility on my network. I really need to make sure that I'm not just having some solution that just provides me connectivity. I can get that with consumer-grade hardware. I still need enterprise-class functionality, consumer-grade simplicity. You know, which is really, that's usually what drives the cost of equipment. And so I'd really like to sit down and take a look at some of the analytics. That's make or break. On anybody can offer wireless, not too many people can do analytics. Big piece here, right? And very detailed, very granular analytics, not how many people connect, who cares, you know? I mean, I can grab that from just a sniffer on my phone. I'd also like to see some of the stuff they're doing on the wired side as well, because I know the folks here actually use a lot of their switches. I've never tested a MERAKI switch ever. Mainly due to the fact that I just felt that it was lower end stuff. So I wanted to shake and bake one. I want to test it. I want to see what's going on with it and really figure out what the details are.
Very interesting. Well, guys, we had a chance to walk around the offices here. We had a chance to soak in the fact that there is a whole lot going on here, from the support operations to gear that the engineers are playing with, to the ability to recreate a lot of the challenges, the issues, to really push into markets that I never thought that they would have been a part of. It's an amazing amount of things going on here. Hopefully we're going to bring at least a small slice of that to you. I had a chance, first off, to sit down with Katie. We first met her, if you remember Katie from
at Interop in New York.
It was Interop in New York, and we talked a little MERAKI there. Also saw some people that we talked to in previous shows where we've bits and pieces of MERAKI that have worked their way into previous shows. But today, it's all about understanding that cloud solution and what it can bring to you and what it is that they're doing lately. And I started with that to see exactly how far they're going, and I talked to Katie. Well, Katie Lane, it's good to see you again. We met a long time ago. I think it was at Interop in New York.
Yes.
Much earlier in our MERAKI relationship that we've enjoyed so far, and found out that we're both Texans. I like that. You got a good, not even just Texas, you got the Houston, the South Texas background.
True.
So anyway, it's fun to be out here in San Francisco and see your awesome offices. Jimmy Ray and I have been talking a little bit about what we think MERAKI is about and some of the things that people have trouble coming around on, but I want to get your opinion on this as the MERAKI expert. How do you describe to people what you do?
at its core, Meraki is a networking company,
Okay.
right? And we are part of Cisco,
Yep.
and we provide networking gear. We make networking gear and push it out to customer
But you
sites.
do it differently. And
We
how do you
do-
describe what you do differently? Why would you be better than someone else?
So it really comes down to the cloud management,
Mm-hmm.
and that's obviously the core of our business, but it's really this idea of simplicity
Yeah.
and providing really advanced networking technology, but boiling it down to the things that you really need to see and the things that are most important to configuring the network.
So you guys made your bones early on in wireless and did very well with that. And it's a great startup story and just incredible how it's
Yeah.
grown into what it is. Because you're part of Cisco, but you guys are very independent, and I think that's right because you guys are doing a lot of things really, really well that are good for us. And it really is around cloud services and that distinction of providing a very complex service, which networking and the expectations we have about what networking can do for us, it is complex.
Yeah.
But when I look at your product, when I interact with it, when I use it myself, and we play with it, complexity is the last thing that comes to mind. If anything, what comes to mind is, what am I missing? I feel like there must be something going wrong because this is too easy. And so
Right.
there's this push and pull of doubt maybe that may
Yeah.
creep in on certain customers. Do you get pushback on people from the very thing that you're proud of delivering?
Do we get pushback?
No, like if people go, wait a second, I don't see everything I want to see.
Yeah.
Is it really doing what I think it needs to do?
Totally. I think that can catch people off guard at first from the product's perspective because they're used to seeing a dump of data, a bunch
Sure.
of data about what's
That
happening
tells
on
me
a
stuff
device.
is happening because look at all the digits. Yeah.
Exactly. But a lot of times that's not really the most useful approach. And I think
Yeah.
the Meraki approach is different in that we give you that same data, but we really try to distill it to the important pieces. So one of my favorite things about the product is really you do gain visibility into what's happening in the network. And that's really one of the core aspects of Meraki is visibility into all of your sites from the cloud and all of your devices, and then even down into the client level, what's happening on all of those clients. But we take that same data and try to make it as useful as possible to the customers. So
That's not easy
Yeah.
to do, yeah.
exactly, it's trying to pull out the pieces that they're actually going to use. So what's happening from an application perspective? Which applications are most being utilized in the network? Are there
There's a lot of good
outlying
detail.
scenarios?
Okay.
Are there clients that are really pushing more traffic than normal? Is there a problem with that particular client? So we try to make things that you would want to normally see on a network, try to make those really visible to the customer.
So that dashboard view you're famous for is not necessarily mean that there's any less expectation a customer should have about the detail, the reporting, and the stuff they need to run their network intelligently.
Yeah.
Because you guys are constantly monitoring that. And I don't think we can show everywhere. I've had the privilege of walking around here, and I've seen on the walls is we have different groups of people that work here. This is, I think, a lot of support people here. I'm seeing UI designs. You guys obviously spend a lot of time making sure that, does this make sense? You have a mobile app now to really make things simple so that no matter where you are, you can interact with the network. Do people push back, though, on, so let's take the cloud argument in general, because I think some people understand that they're thinking about, yeah, the cloud is the future, and you guys are actually saying, not future, it's the current, it's the
Yeah.
present, and you don't have to build it, but you could leverage the benefits. I feel like that's one of the value plays here. But do people push back and they go, I'm not comfortable from a privacy perspective, perhaps. Where's my data going? What are you doing with it? If I can't
Yeah.
control it, then I must be out of control.
Absolutely. I think that's a completely valid question, and it's one that we definitely tried to address and actually educate the customer on what's happening with their data. So we have what we call an out-of-band control plane. So that means that the customer
Okay.
data never leaves their network. It stays locally on the LAN
makes sense.
or goes to its destination somewhere
Because what
else
would be
on
the point of
WAN.
routing it through the network anyway,
Yeah.
unless it needed to leave for connectivity reasons?
Right. You'd never push that data through the cloud. That's not the path. So what we do send to the cloud is the control traffic. That's what we're able to show the customer what's happening in their network. So it's a bunch of metadata, and it's not the actual traffic itself.
That makes
and
sense.
the traffic that is sent to the cloud, the control data, is all encrypted. So
Okay.
it's completely secure from end to end.
Well, you guys have grown and you've got a lot of different customers. I assume you have government customers. You have a swath of industries of people that are heavily regulated. So
Yeah.
you probably carry a fair amount of certifications and third-party auditing on the network.
We do have certifications on the solution itself, PCI compliance, HIPAA compliance, a number of other things. And then on the data centers as well. So our data centers are secured and compliant. SSAE 16 Type 2 is
Good for
the
you. I can never remember those
data
things.
center
Yeah.
certification. Yeah, so that means that it's undergone the auditing testing as well.
Very good. Let me ask you one other question I hear sometimes from people, and it may be kind of partially answered in your architectural piece there, but some customers get concerned that if I lose connectivity to the web or the internet, that suddenly that means my network now is at the whim and mercy of my internet connection. But that's not the case, is it?
It's absolutely not. I mean, the networking products can run without talking to the cloud. They have their configuration locally. If you can't get to the internet for some reason, maybe that customer's internet connection goes down, which happens from time to time, but for the most part, we're all connected to the internet pretty reliably for the most part. But if that does happen, those networking products still run even if they can't talk to the cloud. It's just sending those updates about what was happening. That'll have to wait until that internet connection
So it's just
is
change
resumed.
control becomes, for that moment in time, that nothing gets lost and nothing suddenly fails open and gets less secure or anything to that manner. Okay, that makes sense. So people like me just need to think through a little bit more because I think that's logical. So final couple of points here, because you guys are working on a bunch of interesting new stuff.
Yeah.
One of which was you're opening up the API further than you ever have before, and you've got not your typical end customer. It seems like you've got customers providing services, not necessarily a service provider, but people that are adding value on top of what you provide in the network because of that API. Do you have any examples that might be worth sharing there?
Yeah, so we have a couple APIs, one being the CMX API. So CMX is the location analytics solution.
Okay, that's nice.
We're opening up that API. I mean, it's been open for customers, but we're adding in more features to the API, specifically around like XY location and understanding where customers are moving around. So that wasn't in the API before, and we're adding that in so that customers can now create wayfinding apps and maybe push coupons when customers walk into a store based on their location within a store.
So you guys can literally do that thing now, overlay a building diagram and see tracking based on Wi-Fi signals of people's phones, even if they've not necessarily connected to the service or something like that, and then draw data from that and make decisions about the business, about traffic flow and such. Okay. I always thought it was hard to do, so that's good to know.
Yeah, we've had that for a little while, but I think the important piece there is not necessarily having the functionality, but being able to make it usable to the customer so that they can get their solution up and running without having to spend a ton of time building out a backend to support it.
Well, and one of your engineers told me you guys not only spend, obviously we talk about the UI, but you actually spend time simplifying the API. You know, so the stuff that most people would never ever see because they're acting with the results of it, you guys are actually working on even making that simple so that other companies can, who maybe work with your competitors, actually have a reason to work with you more because they can drive more services on their self at a lower cost through themselves, right?
Totally.
Oh, excellent. What about MSPs? We brought that up. So service providers are doing stuff with you as well?
Yeah, so we have a portal specifically for MSPs, and it allows them to do a whole number of things from white labeling solutions and pushing those out to customers. But also we have a lot of hooks into systems that MSPs might already have in play, like identity service solutions with their own systems and tying that into the dashboard so that if a customer wanted to check in on what was happening with the dashboard, it could feel like they've never left their own organization.
Oh, it's just you're passing those credentials on over internally so that the branding and the consistent user experience is preserved from whoever customer you're invisibly providing that for.
Exactly.
Neat.
And then we can extend the dashboard usability beyond just the IT team, but then provide monitoring capabilities and all of the analytics data maybe to the marketing team or to the finance team so that it all ties right in to the rest of the business.
See, that's fascinating to me because I think I would accidentally discount the fact that you guys do a very, very good job of providing these core services to like end user customers, and by end user I mean companies of all sizes, but what you're saying here though is that you're in a lot more places than would normally appear, and you're making it easier for businesses to make money in that same turnkey fashion, but doing some stuff I would have accidentally labeled as complex and hard to do. And you're saying, no, it doesn't have to be.
Exactly,
wow. Okay.
I mean, a lot of the solutions that MSPs are rolling out, a lot of times there'd be a huge barrier to entry to some of those markets just because of the upfront investment involved in creating that infrastructure. Well, we have already done that for them. So now they can go in, have a really quick time to market, run proof of concepts, without ever having to set up that infrastructure on their end.
Boy, I think if there's any lesson someone needs to remember is ask. If you're not sure if you guys do it, you better ask, because chances are you may have added it in the meantime. You may be doing things a lot more difficult, may perceive that they're more difficult than they really are, so you better ask. And so can we have permission to come back and ask and see how you guys are doing over time?
Please do.
Katie, thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
That cloud stuff sounds pretty nice, doesn't it? But beyond all the fluff and the niceties here that we like to pump in here, can you really trust it? You put all your data in this one spot, kind of in this area of servers you don't own in a location that you may not even know about. How can you trust what's in there? And the more we move to that, that means we're going to depend a lot more on that trust. So any good network administrator should have kind of this zero trust model that they run on. And so as we're talking about this whole really nice, cool cloud type of network here, how do we know that that's as secure as what my standards are? There's a couple things you can look at. The good thing about on the MERAKI side is that they put their money where their mouth is. They are into quite a few audits, right? I mean, they go through the safe harbor model, which is big in Europe, right? If you're into European trust standards, safe harbor is a big one. The big international ones, there's two big monster ones. There's SAS 70. That's actually a really big one. And then also the humongous one is SSAE 16 type 2. These are big audits, and what they do is it's a way for a third party, a truly independent third party, not some friggin' testing house that's going to kind of give you the results based upon the questions you answer. These are very highly defined. You can download the templates, and they will tell you what it is that they're actually scanning for. This one in particular, this one takes about 1 to 2 months just to actually run. So this is a huge month, and it expires every 12 months. So simple math tells you that you're running through this, you get about 10 months of operational time out of a certification before you actually have to start prepping for your next audit. If you've been through an audit, you know they're tough, right? I got to define all these different written policies. I've got to set where all my servers are, who owns them, what's their patch level, all that good stuff. There's a lot of detail that goes into any audit, and these are incredibly strenuous as far as that because they comply with international law, right? That's another really, really big piece here. So that gives you a nice benchmark of how secure that cloud is that you're buying into. Hey, Ross, we really want to get to the business end of location analytics so we can see that visibility, all that nice meaty detail that you guys are really known for. You got a demo for us here? Tell me what we're looking at.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is the MERAKI dashboard, and one of kind of the principles of what we try to show in the dashboard is a lot of rich visibility around users and devices and applications.
Okay.
So this interface right now is showing you what applications are flowing across both the wired and wireless networks. And this is a list of all the client devices, and I can dive into a particular device, and I can see more information about that device. So this is something that we've had in the interface for a while, but we wanted to evolve this feature set further. So what we have been doing over time is we've been building out the analytics, and we recently added what we call the CMX Cloud Analytics. CMX stands for Connected Mobile Experiences. And now what we do is the MERAKI wireless access points will actually detect probe requests from devices.
Really?
And we aggregate all of that data in the cloud, and we present you views on who's passing by your location versus coming into the location, and who's actually then staying, and how long are they staying for. This is very powerful. It's a powerful tool for marketing teams to use to understand visitor traffic in and out of stores. So in the interface here, you'll see for our corporate location, roughly 700 people passing by on a daily basis, 444 people coming into the location, and then out of those people, 75 actually connecting to the network. So this is showing you proximity metrics. The second chart here is showing you engagement metrics. So out of anyone who comes into the location, how long do those people end up staying? So roughly 100 people or more are staying for more than 6 hours, which makes sense. Because we have a lot of people working here in the building. And finally, loyalty metrics will show you how many people are new versus repeat visitors, and maybe even going as far as being daily visitors, right?
Okay.
So again, you can figure out, okay, is the foot traffic into your store primarily new business or repeat business? And again, powerful way to understand kind of both online behavior as well as offline behavior in terms of just people passing by the location.
It's important that people understand that you're looking at the probe request and not the beacon request here. I mean, you're actually, that gives you a lot more granularity in what you're actually seeing here.
Yeah,
Which is very
absolutely.
cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I'm really not used to seeing this kind of detail unless I have like an MSE attached to it. So this is pretty darn cool. I'm really, really impressed. What else do you got here?
Yeah, so just in terms of the kind of visibility, you can do a lot of comparisons as well. So, for example, I can compare my branch London site here, which is our kind of office in London, to our corporate headquarters here. So you can basically run a lot of very detailed comparisons and try to really understand, okay, which site has more people passing by versus less people passing by. So again, if you're a retailer, you can understand now, I want to compare the visitor metrics of my highest grossing revenue site to my lowest grossing revenue site to see if there's a correlation. I can also export this data out, both in the form of a spreadsheet, as well as we have a CMX Cloud API that can export all these metrics out in real time. So for example,
really?
if you want to correlate data sets with an external data set,
Okay.
you can programmatically extract this data in real time, and you can even use that data to engage with people in real time. So let's
No
say you
kidding.
want to push a coupon to someone when they come into the store, even if they haven't connected to the network, if you recognize that MAC address and you've tied it to a user's identity, then you can engage that person when they come into the store. So a lot of very powerful use cases open up, and it kind of extends the applicability of what was traditionally kind of more of an IT infrastructure now, more towards marketing teams, business teams, finance teams, even operations teams, because you can understand, even if you're not necessarily a revenue-generating retailer, if you're a university or a college campus, you can understand generally where are people going around my campus, and how does that vary by time of day.
Yeah, you can architect whatever type of advertisements or solutions you need to based upon that traffic flow, or even discourage traffic flow. Or you know what, even what I've seen a lot of people use stuff like this for is if they're going to do any building remodeling or something, how many people is it going to affect and what they need to do to adjust that. So there's a lot of stuff you can do with this.
Definitely, and in fact, we even have a more of a visual page called the location heat map, and this basically plots this data on top of the Google Maps view, and this can basically show you, okay, again, over the course of a day, how do the visitor traffic patterns change, right? And you can basically play this back, so every hour it'll show you roughly where are people congregating in or around a location, and how does that traffic pattern change, right? So you'll see around 6 a.m. certain parts of the floor light up because that's when our East Coast sales team comes in, and then you'll see 10 a.m. of course bustling activity, and you can kind of get a sense of, okay, where are people going in or around my location? So this can be, again, useful in the retail context because you can understand which aisles are more crowded or which parts of the store are more crowded, where do you need to send store associates, so on and so forth.
This is all built into the AP?
This is all built into the cloud. The MERAKI model is one that's really built around simplicity. So the one cloud license that we have per product will give you all of these metrics and all these analytics, and it also includes 24/7 tech support.
Seriously?
Yeah, so you get all the visibility analytics out of the box. So you can set up an access point in your home, and you'll get this data and visibility in your home in real time. So that's powerful, right? You don't have any extra appliances. You don't need to configure anything specifically. You don't have to buy extra licenses. It's all, again, out of the box.
Golly, dog. No, so then let me ask you this. That being the case, I mean, information is about the only commodity worth owning these days. So that being the case, how secure is this type of stuff? How secure is my data from somebody else's? We're talking in the cloud. I'm
Definitely.
hoping that my cloud is my cloud, you know?
Definitely.
Like the Rolling Stones said, right? So I don't want people on my cloud.
Definitely. So there's a number of built-in kind of privacy checks and metrics. Let me give you some examples. So the cloud is architected in a way where it's a multi-tenant architecture. So we have segmentation of data sets between customers. So the same way that Gmail or Salesforce is built with software best practices in mind to segment customer data, we use those same best practices. In terms of some of this analytics data, because we realize that this can be very, very sensitive, you know, people, for example, don't necessarily want to be tracked when they walk into a store. So we have an opt-out mechanism where you can actually opt out specific devices based off their MAC address from these kind of analytics and
Really?
tracking tools. Also, specifically for this data set, we're not actually storing any raw MAC addresses. We actually do a one-way hash of that MAC address based off a customer ID, and then we truncate that hash. So even if the data was compromised, there's no way to actually get back to the original MAC
It's
address.
one way,
Yes.
which is nice.
Yes, it's a one-way hash.
Very,
Exactly.
very, very nice.
So, you know, I think privacy just, because we're in the cloud and because people have kind of historically had concerns about data being stored somewhere in a public cloud, we've really designed the architecture in a way where privacy was the central focus of a lot of our engineering and back-end architecture.
We got about a couple minutes left, so I want to make sure that we drill into anything else really cool on wireless here, especially when it comes to location piece, because I also want to make sure I give just a little bit of time to take a look at some of the wired stuff, because I'm a route switch guy, but on the wireless side, because this is where some real nice meat and taters is for building this stuff out. What else can we take a look at here with this solution? This is out of the box. It blows me away that this is out of the box.
Yeah, no, it's very intuitive, and in fact, at our corporate HQ here in this building, we're running not only MERAKI wireless, but also MERAKI security appliances as well as MERAKI switches. So we have that complete cloud-managed network stack, both wired, wireless, as well as switching, right? So that's very compelling, and you can take a look here. For example, if I go into my switch page, that this is basically our entire Meraki switching fabric. And I can go into any one of my switches, and I can see exactly what switch ports are being used, which ones are outputting PoE. I can click on the switch port. We have built-in LLDP to show you what device is behind that switch port. And just over time, as we've expanded our network portfolio, we've also been expanding the software features. And we've been moving more and more up market to kind of larger campus environments. And one of the things we've added recently is routing protocols. So if I were to go over to our engineering switch network, we're actually right now testing and rolling out OSPF. So OSPF is a kind of a more complex routing protocol.
Definitely.
And you can see here, the kind of typical OSPF configuration would be a multi-step command line process. But here in the UI, we have a new page called OSPF routing. I can basically enable or disable it. I can configure all of my OSPF settings, my areas, interfaces, static routes, my timers, and even kind of some of the more advanced authentication settings. And I can save it, and it'll all be implemented automatically. The cloud will push down those settings to the edge devices, and you'll now have OSPF on your cloud managed switch.
That is very cool. That is really cool. It's kind of funny because there's sort of a dichotomy here. I'm seeing the simplicity of this, and I'm also saying, whoa, what about my job?
Well, I think the thinking is that we want to eliminate some of the kind of just redundant complexity, right? So we don't want IT teams to have to worry about how do I configure my SSID or how do I troubleshoot my network. We really want to free you guys up to focus on more kind of higher level problems, right? How do you kind of define what your SDN strategy is for your next gen network, right? Or how is your network going to evolve over the next 5 years? We want you guys thinking about that kind of stuff, not worrying about, hey, is my switch down and I have to now go on site and plug into my switch.
Well, Raj, great solution, man. Good stuff. I'm absolutely floored. I mean, this is very, very impressive stuff. And you got an API that you can connect in this thing as well?
Yeah, so we have a number of APIs that let you basically extract data from the platform. And we continue to build out, not only the software, but we're adding more hardware platforms, we're adding more interfaces, and we're really evolving this. I mean,
That's
there's a lot of
amazing.
attention and focus right now on Meraki because we're one of the most successful business units inside of Cisco in terms of our growth and some of our kind of customers that we're winning. So we're definitely really excited for the future.
I love this solution. I really honestly do. I'm nothing but impressed, man. Good job to you guys and your engineers, man. Thank you.
All right, guys, it's been a full day here at Meraki. I only wish that a little bit closer, although I noticed just the lobby just out here, these guys have to, Cisco employees, it's an interesting mix in here. They're so busy and they've got so much going on here, and the fact they're growing fast, I think they're going to be looking at even expanding space here from what I understand.
Come seriously?
But these are some nice offices.
Man, these are fantastic.
But it's worth it. They're turning out some good stuff, and I think the level of intelligence in what's happening here is interesting. What really jumps out at me is just a key point, a walk away, is not only do I've gotten out of this SMB only mindset, which was a mistake to begin with, and I thought it probably was, just to be nice.
Same here.
But
same
now
here,
I see it.
Same here.
But I think and I think this is always going to be a problem when you do such a good job with design and making something simple. How do you help people understand that complexity that they think needs to be there and or may really need to be there is there, operating on their behalf?
It's interesting. I think that when you're looking at building out any network where it's wired, wireless, whatever the case may be, you've got a nice little piece in here to really compare what your design looks like and say, do I really need to do this much complexity or this kind of stuff in the network? And if you really don't, you've got a really fantastic solution right here that's backed by Cisco, and it's built incredibly, incredibly well. So I think that it's nice to have these two options. You're not kind of set in this whole, like the competitors like to say, high-priced Cisco stuff with all these features you'll never use. Now it's like, okay, well, if you're not going to use them, then why don't you look at something like Meraki?
And it's not either or, though, too, because I think it's a complementary situation. There's a lot of things that we can do here. With the way they're expanding the API, they're driving some things that I would think are very difficult to pull off in a simple fashion and making it into turnkey for location services.
Yeah, buddy.
For white labeling and driving into service providers and allowing them with single sign-on now being offered so that ID can be exchanged invisibly on the background. That's great for enterprises. I mean, a lot of customers we know, of course, have invested heavily in their systems, whether it be ticketing systems or for tracking users. It makes no sense to force employees into something that doesn't feel natural when they need to interact with this kind of stuff that's operating on their behalf. Now they can make it all invisible behind the scenes.
Agreed.
I mean, that's touching a lot of nice places in the market.
Yep.
Guys, we really enjoyed making this show. Hope you enjoyed it as well. Be sure and check out the workshop. There's probably going to be a link there at the bottom of the screen. we're going to go even further, have more of a conversation. Meraki does some, they put their money where their mouth is. And one of the things that's a lot of fun about these guys is that when you attend, I don't know if they'll do it this workshop, but I know they do it with their workshops, but they give you
give you a free
gear
unit.
at the end.
Yeah.
So that you can test it, you can play with it, make sure you're comfortable with that. So don't hesitate to take advantage of it, because it's not taking advantage of them. It's actually just
That's what they
proving
want.
where it goes. Exactly.
Yeah.
That's where it works. So anyway, hope you enjoyed the show. Be sure and check out all the social media information that's been on your screen, hopefully already. And we'll see you on the next one, I would think. Probably makes sense.
Folks, here we go. Stand by. And 5, 4, 3, 2.
All right, so, wow. A little bit bummed that I don't live a little bit, hold on.
Thank you, Mike.